watching Calf Kick Sports.
Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Calf Kick Sports podcast. As always, my name is Tim Wheaton, joined as always by Ash. And today we have a special guest. He's fighting out of the Northeast. He is the manager at the Serra Longo camp. Today we are joined by a professional MMA fighter, Steve Lee. How are you doing today, Steve? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well. I got to correct you first, though. I'm just the manager of the Longo Weidman team, and just turning professional. So still an amateur, but soon to be professional in February, hopefully.
I'm not even going to correct it. You know what?
You're all good. It is what it is.
It's all fine. It's all with that. But how's everything going, Steve? I know you fought a month ago. Are you looking to get back in there soon, or you taking a bit of a breather before you fight again?
No, absolutely. I mean, I always told everyone, as long as I'm healthy, I'll go anytime I can. That's kind of the thing. I had a couple of fights in a row and had a couple lingering issues, so just healing those up. And I'd like to go back in February. They have a Ring of Combat show by Lou Negli and Ray Longo, so I'd like to fight on their card.
February is just around the corner. You've had 3 fights in 2021. You're fighting in February next. What are you learning from? You're fighting so frequently. You didn't fight, I think, in 2019 and 2020. How much are you learning from fighting that frequently?
I think that's kind of the best way to do it, in my opinion. And I run it by Ray all the time, who I just consider a genius in the sport. I try to run that by him and kind of ask, who are the most successful fighters, and they're kind of just the ones that are active and the ones that, quite frankly, they want to fight. And I feel like I'm one of those guys. I love being in there, and I want to get in there as soon as I can.
Oh, absolutely. Ash, go ahead there.
I mean, you're surrounded in training with killers, Aljo and Mirab. Does that do a lot for your confidence, knowing that, you could be at that elite level someday as well?
Of course. And more than anything, I just, for me, it's just such a gracious experience being around those guys because they're such humble and good guys. It teaches me more than just the martial arts aspect of it, just because, I mean, let's be clear, they do beat my ass. So it's not like, it's not like it's always just one way or the other, but it's, they teach me a lot more just about life as well as martial arts.
Dude, that is absolutely awesome. No, Longo is an absolutely legendary trainer, and you're there with Weidman as well. But yeah, you're training with some amazing athletes there. But if you had to take one fighter from outside your camp that you could train with, what fighter would you most want to train with?
That's a tough one, man. One fighter that I'd want to train with, it's tough. I guess just as a fan, I'd love to, learn from George St-Pierre. Just one of the most, in my opinion, well-rounded guys in the sport. That's someone I always tried to take as much as I could from. A guy like GSP, a guy like Frankie Edgar, who's been there forever. Long-running guys. I'd love to pick their brains.
Dude, yeah, those are hype. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Ash.
Would you consider him the GOAT of the sport, GSP? Because that's a common answer with all MMA fans. Like, GSP, he's the GOAT.
Look, I think if anyone says GSP, I would never complain. At that point, to me, I think it's all personal preference and what you like. If you look at GSP or Anderson Silva's, just their length of their careers and just the length of their success, quite frankly, phenomenal. It's just truly amazing. But you also see a guy like Khabib, whose dominance is, to me, and Ray says it the same too, it's just one of the biggest measures of a guy's success and just skill is everyone knows what you're going to do and you still do it. That is, to me, incredible. And the fact that Khabib was able to do it his whole career, I think, is phenomenal. So for me, I guess personal preference, I guess I would go GSP, but again, that's just personal preference. I wouldn't argue if you said, GSP, Silva, Fedor, Khabib. I could never argue with any of those guys.
Is it sacrilege? But so given where you grew up and where you were born and then where you're training now, is it almost sacrilege in their fight camp to say that GSP might be the GOAT? Is this something that you don't want to tell Longo?
Well, you know what? It's funny. Me and Longo have had conversations about that too, because obviously I'm a huge GSP fan, and obviously Longo had a couple run-ins with him. But everyone, that's what I say too. Like whenever someone tries to sign up at the gym, I'm usually the guy to sign them up. I tell everyone the same thing. Like, dude, there's just a lot of good, reasonable guys here, to be quite honest. And I think that attributes to the success of the team, quite frankly. And look, you see, if you watch Matt Serra's podcast on Unfiltered at all, him and GSP, they're buddies at this point. They're just a bunch of nerds that like to talk and bullshit. And I think that's phenomenal, man. Like, if GSP walked in today, I know for a fact Ray would go over, shake his hand, and welcome him in here with open arms. So we might argue the logistics and like the details, but in terms of just like personal preference and like success. It's all just personal preference.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everyone's got their own little personal preference. Would you say so? I mean, we asked this to a lot of fighters. I mean, what their MMA influence was to getting into the sport. Would you say GSP was one of them? Would you say it's something else? Would you say it's just a combination of things, really?
Getting into the sport's a tough one for me. I mean, for me, I was always just, I was reading comic books. I was just a nerd, man. Like, so I was always into like the martial arts, and like I was into pro wrestling. So that kind of blended everything together. So I wouldn't say GSP, like they got me into the sport, but those are the guys that kept me around, like those, like, what brought me into the sport is like it's like most casual fans that come in, just like some sort of freak show element or something that was pretty cool to me. Like when Brock Lesnar first came into the UFC, which was back in like 2008, I believe. I was like, man, Brock Lesnar, I remember him from the WWE. Like he's fighting people now, like actually fighting. And I had to check that out. So that kind of brought me in. But then I started watching guys like Randy Couture. I remember him fighting Tim Sylvia at the time. I'm thinking like, what the hell is going on? Like this little old man is about to fight this giant. Like this is ridiculous. What is this? And then to see him dominate this guy for 5 rounds, I'm like, dude, I gotta learn more about this thing. And then obviously I just started going back and more on the history, and it sucks you in, man. I'm sure, as you guys know.
Well, yeah, the thing is with fighting is that we really do want good storylines. And I remember, sorry, Ash. So I'll do one quick follow-up and then Ash, go ahead after. But I remember with the Randy Couture, Tim Sylvia fight, the entire bar erupted. Just like you said, it was the storyline of like this old man. He was coming off a loss at light heavyweight. Now he's beating the heavyweight champion. Like this sport at its best is incredible sometimes, right?
Absolutely. No, it's just to be able to watch. I mean, look, there's just so many little storylines that it to me, it's almost frustrating to watch, because it's like, I see the UFC have these fighters and I'm like, man, like I wish they just told this story or this story, because like it's actually incredible to listen to. Like even on our team, we got Merab Dvalishvili, who, I mean, think of it, the guy came from a different country, didn't speak the language, came to New York, Long Island of all places. He made this place a home. He's become the heart and soul of the team. Like everyone rallies behind that guy. And just, seeing especially his last fight, just seeing how he had to overcome that kind of adversity. It's just amazing to watch, because it's just the story of his life, quite frankly. It's the story of the fight, and again, it's the story of his life. So it's if you get to see all those stories, man, it is something amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Now, in terms of like just your influences, kind of musical influences, I know you come out with Uproar by Lil Wayne. So I like that. I was like, yeah, that's a fucking tune, man. Would you say Lil Wayne's like one of your biggest musical influences?
Just because when I was growing up, Lil Wayne was really popular. I wouldn't say he's a musical influence, but I was a fan. And for me, the walkout is more just, it's a reminder for me, like, because again, like I think the mental aspect is such a huge component, and for myself especially, like I'm in my head 24/7, so I got to almost shake that out sometimes. And sometimes that kind of music, it just kind of brings me back to look, man, I'm 13 years old. I'm having fun. Like, what the hell? Like, dude, and this is something I tell everyone too. Like, if the worst thing that happens to me is I lose a cage fight that I agreed to on a Saturday night with my buddies, look, man, life could be a lot worse. I can't complain with that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it could be a lot worse for sure. Who are your top 3 artists if you had to pick?
Oh man, top 3 artists? That's a tough one. This is gonna sound crazy. Kid Cudi, Led Zeppelin, and oh man, that third one. You know what? I mean, it's because there's probably a Weidman influence, but Tom Petty. Those are probably my top 3.
Man, I love the fact that you just said Kid Cudi, man. Like, you know what, man? That's just awesome. He's in my opinion.
No, that's a wild one to put. Tom Petty, Kid Cudi, and Led Zeppelin.
I know it
right?
sounds crazy, but if you looked at my iTunes playlist, those are the top 3 guys. So I thought that was pretty fair.
That is absolutely awesome. We also checked on, we did a deep dive on you as well. So we checked on people that you're following, what you're following. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. Uh-oh. And this is based on research that we did on you, Steve. Would you rather be an MMA fighter or a Pokemon trainer?
Oh man, that's easy. I would be a Pokemon trainer that just happens to fight. That's to me any day, man. Are you kidding me?
Oh man, that's such a good. Who would you say? Who's your favorite Pokemon of all time?
You know what? It just has. It's funny. I just think I picked my personality at 8 years old and just kind of ran with it till today. It's probably still Pikachu. Like that was my first game. I still play as Pikachu in Super Smash Bros. Like that's just my character, man.
I'm glad you went old school because I have no idea any of these new Pokemon.
Oh yeah, no, I'm way behind on that stuff.
The first 200, and then like after that, I'm like, I have no idea who the hell.
That's it for me too.
Yeah.
Were you more into watching the show or more into the Game Boy games?
You know, I was a little both, but definitely, you know, once I got sucked into the games, man, like, you know, I was growing up around that time. Dude, there was nothing like that, man. I was running around with my little Game Boy Advance everywhere. Oh, dude, it was the best.
Dude,
Game Boy Advance, that's taking it back, man.
Dude, honestly, like I was playing it. I'm gonna sound like a real dweeb if I say this out loud, but I was playing Pokemon not that long ago, and I think Pokemon Red and Gold still aged really well. Like those are still good games.
This is a probably crazy nerdy conversation, but no, I used to have like an emulator on my laptop. Like when I was in college, I was still playing like those old games. Are you kidding me?
I used to run home from school, and just play on my
computer. Of course, no, all the time. No, I was in class playing. No, I didn't care.
So my mom's like, "You doing your homework?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing."
Absolutely, of course.
Like the whole time, I'm just like, and then the next day, I'll do none of my homework. I'm like,
"Yep,
what are you doing?"
No, that was it. Those were the days, man.
So, just to change gears up a little bit, I mean, I want to kind of talk about like, you know, how do you promote yourself? Would you say you're a trash talker? Do you look for beef, or would you say you're a bit more respectful?
Look,
how do you describe yourself?
I guess it's interesting. I don't do like these interview podcasts very often. I did one, but I kind of did one a couple weeks ago. Maybe like 2 weeks ago with someone else named Ike, very kind, nice man. And he kind of asked the vaguely same question, and I just kind of told him, you know, my main thing was I just know what I'm about, quite frankly. I just know what I want out of the sport, out of life in general. I think so, at least. And I don't want to go away from who I am. And so I'm just, you know, if someone says something, I'm just going to tell the facts, quite frankly. I wouldn't say anything disrespectful. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. In fact, I don't want to hurt anyone, period. I just want to do what I love, which happens to be training, fighting. And unfortunately, the end goal of the fighting part is hurting someone, but it is what it is. But no, I have no animosity towards anyone, really.
Nice, man. That's really good though. I mean, like, you know, you got that respectful kind of side of it as well. Obviously, you know, I'm not like hating on the ones that look for that beef and, you know, kind of stir up the drama. But
I love that. Like, let's be clear. Like, in terms of like watching as a fan, like that's what I'm into. Unfortunately, like, you know, all the trash talk, all that stuff. No, that sells me. Like, but at the same time, ultimately, like that stuff is awesome. But to me, what matters the most is, can you back it up? Do you have the skill? Like a guy like a Colby Covington, for example, you know, to me, like it's a little much. Like it's fine. Like do your thing, whatever. But to me, at the end of the day, the guy backs it up. Like I can't shit on the guy if he goes into the cage and he fights his ass off the way he does every time. So look, if he was going in there and getting, you know, losing every fight and getting beat up, then I'd be like, all right, man, this is ridiculous. But again, for his skill, I think the guy's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like Conor's becoming a bit of a parody now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh man, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, yeah. And he hasn't won, like, I mean, that classic line, he hasn't won since Obama was president.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, if you can back it up, it's a lot better, isn't it? I mean, other than that, like, just shut up if you don't have that.
Absolutely. And look, the counter argument to that, I get, like, you know, Conor's keeping himself relevant. You know, he stays in the news. He's, you know, constantly chirping about something. Look, to me, it just depends. Again, it depends what you're about, man. Like if that's what you care about, you know, making the money, and you want, you know, that's what you're more after. You want the fame, which clearly at this point is what Conor seems to be cares more about. Then yeah, do what you got to do. Same for Colby. You know, that seems to be his priority. You know, making the money, doing well. That to me, that's all secondary. Like it just happens to be. It's on the table, but I'm good with it off it too.
Yeah. Like I'm a little bit more on the purist side of this sport, where like I think of it as like martial arts first, and then the rest of it is very fun as well if people want to do that. But I would be lying if I didn't say, like, man, when people actually hate each other, that's good stuff. John Jones, absolutely. Daniel Cormier.
No, that's 100%. No, that's exactly. Look, I think the main thing with that too is just it's genuine. Like I think if it's a fake heat, like a fake rivalry, then I don't know how I feel. But like when it's two guys that genuinely dislike each other and then they get to fight it out, come on, what's better than that? That's two kids in the schoolyard that are talking shit all day. Like, I'm into that every day. Like, I don't care how old you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Ash, go for it.
No, I was gonna say, like, I definitely agree with that whole, if it's genuine, it's better. I mean, Tim is a nicer guy than me, but he's just like, no, man, I don't need to see any of this beef or any of this stuff. When it comes down to it, when it's genuine, it's the best thing in the world, man, honestly. Now, in terms of, you got like amazing cornermen. You got like Matt Serra, you got Ray Longo. As a spectator, honestly, I like watching them corner just as much as I like seeing the fighters fight. How is it having them in your corner?
You know what? I've never actually had Matt and Ray together in my corner. Usually I have Ray and Phumi in my corner. Phumi Nkut, he's the CFFC champion at 125. I usually have them in my corner. I'd like for my pro debut to have both Matt and Ray in the corner, but for my amateur fights, it's just been Ray and Phumi for the most part. And like, again, to me, just having the guys I trust in the corner, that's the main thing. Like, if I look over to Ray and be like, look, am I winning or am I losing? And I can trust him no matter what. If he tells me you got to go, I'll go. Like, that's the main thing. There's someone you respect and someone you trust. And Fumi's the same way. Like, if Phumi tells me I got to go, I have no doubt I got to go. So I think that's the main thing, just having guys you trust. But I was able to corner with Matt and Ray fairly recently for Pumi's last fight, which I'll tell you, that was a trip, man. Those two are something else.
Well, tell us more about it. Tell us all about, like, how was the corner experience?
You know how, like, a lot of people, like, they think, like, when Matt and Ray, they're on camera, like, they're doing, like, kind of a bit. That's not a bit. That's just them 24/7. Like, I'm telling you, I did a road trip with them all the way to Connecticut. No, actually, that was Pennsylvania. I'm telling, like, no joke, I was, like, dying laughing the entire time. The guys are character. I mean, that's what happens when you know each other for as long as they've known each other. They're in sync, man. It's pretty phenomenal to watch. And it's the same thing when they corner, man. When they're together, they're just in sync. And I like, this is and Matt's never going to take credit for this. I just think it's so amazing when I look at it, just like how crazy it is. Like, Phumi in his last fight, it's a 4-round title fight. That's what they do in CFFC. Going into the 4th round, dominated all 3 rounds. It was clear, probably a couple 10-8s in there. And, Matt tells Phumi, like, look, Phumi, you get to decide how this fight ends. If you want to keep taking this guy down, beat him up, you can do that, or you can go after this guy and go for the finish right now. And Phumi fucking puts him down, finishes him in the 4th round with a couple seconds left. And that's Matt right there, man. Like, having him, like, fucking light a fire under your ass, that is something phenomenal, man. Like, it is to be around like that kind of greatness, to me, is just, it's humbling.
That was at CFFC 101. I think I covered that one.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, that was a good event. CFFC always puts on a good show, honestly.
Oh, no, they do good, man. Really. No, I'm a huge fan of the product.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me switch gears here a little bit, just because I feel like we actually haven't introduced you well enough. What does it actually mean to be a manager at the Longo Weidman gym?
Wow, that is a really nuanced question. Just like, okay, so again, when anyone asks me what I do, I just tell everyone, dude, I'm a gym manager, just because I think that's the most difficult job I have, quite frankly, in the sense that, I come in, I open the doors, I turn everything on, I just make sure. It's weird because, like, it just sounds so simple, but there are so many little pieces. Like, dude, you guys have been in the sport now, like, you guys follow this.
Yeah.
Fighters are crazy, man. Like, these guys are nuts, like, out of their absolute fucking minds. So, like, I'm dealing with like 50 of these guys a day, and like hundreds of more, like dozens more that are not fighters but want to be. So it's not, trust me, that's way worse than the actual fighters. So it's like, I'm just dealing with these crazy personalities, and dude, I live a sitcom essentially. And meanwhile, I'm having to make sure that, like, the business aspect as well as the fight aspect is going well. If the fight team's not succeeding, I don't think the business is succeeding. If the business isn't succeeding, it doesn't matter if the fight team's succeeding, quite frankly. So it's just a weird blend, but I don't know. I think I'm the right guy for the job.
That's awesome, man. What would you say is the biggest trait or qualities that you've learned or you've gained, from being a manager there?
Man, that's you know what? I think the main thing, and this probably comes down to just being around Ray so often, because, working at the gym, I'm here all day, every day. So, and Ray's here most of the time as well. So I get to speak to him and bounce ideas off him. And I think the main thing is just, honestly, just being able to listen. It's just shutting my mouth and listening to some of the guys. Because once you actually start to listen to people, you start realizing, wow, like, man, like, first of all, I have a way better off than I realize. Like, man, you listen to some of these guys' problems, like, holy shit, never mind. I'm doing all right. Like, this is not a problem for me. But yeah, I think for me, that was the main thing, just trying to listen to everyone's problems, trying to listen to everyone, just period, quite frankly, because there's a lot more you can get out of that than you can speaking.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't really realize until they kind of get wrist deep in the sport of like MMA fighters. And historically speaking, this has always been true. Kind of weird people, aren't they? Like,
Right? Like, if you look, I mean, look, if you look at each aspect of the sport too, like jujitsu, wrestling, like kickboxing, it just breeds weird people. And now you put them all together, there's a bunch of weird people together, all from different sports. So yeah, just a weird eclectic mix. I don't mind it because I like weird. I'm weird myself, so I don't really, again, it is what it is. So no, I can't complain, but it is, again, just a trip, man, just to be here.
Awesome, man. So what do you do to relax, would you say? You know, you live busy schedule, or you got to do something to kind of unwind and relax a little bit. You know, do you veg out? Do you do some outdoor activities? What do you do?
That's my main thing. I just kind of veg out. Like, I mean, when I'm relaxing, I'm usually just out on the couch. Like, I get to finally kind of decompress for like a minute, and then usually after like 10 seconds, I'm asleep. So for me, it's pretty easy, man. I'm here all day, and then when I get home, I just unwind for a few minutes, and then I'm out like a light. So, on the weekends, again, I think it's fairly, I hate saying this because it sounds almost arrogant, but like, I think it's almost easy for me, just because I have such amazing people around me. Like, I decompress from what? Like, my life isn't that bad, man. Like, I get to train. Like, I get to be around these guys all day, and then like, I don't really have to unwind because I'm just here. I'm hanging out. To me, like, it's almost, I'm just at the schoolyard all day, and I get to see all my friends come pass by. It's like, all right, like, this really, again, isn't that bad of a gig.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Honestly, martial arts and fist fighting are fun, right? Like, it's a weird thing to say, but like, it doesn't feel like fight or flight. It's a fun thing to do.
No, if you're like, again, I try to recommend, I think training for everyone, I think, can be beneficial. And that's the thing too. Like, I try to separate the whole fighting aspect from the training aspect for a lot of people too, because a lot of guys, they look at the fighting and they're like, oh man, I'd love to train, but I never really want to fight and all that stuff. I'm like, dude, you don't ever have to. Like, this is, again, just, I'm not the most unbiased person. I just think there's no better workout. I just think there's no, again, just a group of people you'll see, like, it's weird too, just because in the world right now, especially in the country, you just see so much divide, and it's tough to watch here in the US. But I'll tell you right now, like, I don't see any of that in this gym. Like, you see every single race, every single culture, you see everyone mixed together, and it's that, I'm telling you, amazing to see. And everyone's all for one goal. Yeah, I'm telling you, if we could set up cameras here and people got to take a look in here, I'm telling you, it would just, I think everyone would be a lot more humbled.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, look, we've all determined we're all nerdy in this Zoom call. What would you say? What would you say is the anime that you're? Are you into anime, basically?
Of course.
Yeah, man. I mean, is there anything you're watching now?
Watching now. I just finished all my. That's the thing. I don't watch that much TV. So when I do, I just binge watch whatever I like. I have whatever period of time I have, and I just try to binge watch whatever I can in that. So I just finished Demon Slayer, which all my friends for years were telling me to get on. So I watched the anime, but then I finished that in like a couple of days. So I ended up just reading the whole thing. So yeah, that was my most recent one. And now I just started watching, I know it's not anime, but Alja was telling me to get on the show Euphoria, which is on HBO Max. And I just started watching that, which is pretty good.
Okay, what's that about? I've never heard of it.
It's kind of just like this coming of age show about like these high school teens kind of growing up. It's actually, for me, it's almost interesting just because I think I grew up in a different time. Like I grew up a little earlier, not that much earlier, but even then, like 5-6 years, if you look at it now, it just made a huge difference. If you look at the technology gap in some of these people. So it's about these guys that grew up in like the late 2000s, kind of like a couple years ago, going through high school and just seeing like what they're going through. And to me, I don't know, it is interesting.
When Aljamain Sterling makes you a recommendation, you have to do it.
Unfortunately, that is the deal around the house. Yes.
Let me ask you, I don't know if you have watched it, but what about Cowboy Bebop being adapted from the original anime into the real life adaptation on Netflix? Was a Cowboy Bebop one that you grew up with?
Unfortunately, I didn't. No, you know what? One of my closest friends in high school always told me to get on that one too. You know, it's still something I'm gonna get to. Like, it is still something just because I love the aesthetic of how it looks. But no, not yet.
That's like my favorite anime of all time, man.
Oh man, all right, no, now I gotta get on it.
It's the best. It's the actually first or second. First is actually probably Samurai Champloo, and then that's second.
Wow. All right. No, definitely check it out.
Do not watch the live action before you watch the anime. I'm begging you.
I considered it too, just because I like that actor. But yeah, no, I didn't hear great things. So
yeah, for sure, man. So Steve, we asked this to everyone. We asked this to all our guests. You know, you got Dustin Poirier. He's got his signature hot sauce. You got Conor McGregor. You know, he's got his proper 12 whiskey. What would a Steve Lee signature brand be?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Steve Lee signature brand. Ooh, I gotta think about that one now. Steve Lee signature brand. It's probably a fanny pack. Steve Lee fanny packs. Everyone knows I got mine on hand always. Again, my main thing is this is just idiot proof, man. Like I don't need anything. I just grab this. I got my wallet, my keys. It's easy. So for me, anything idiot proof, I'm good with.
Dude, no, I got a fanny pack as well. And I know I look like a
move.
dork, but like I got everything right here. You guys need some chapstick. You need my wallet. No problem. It's
Absolutely.
right here in my fanny pack.
That's the main thing. Again, like anything I need, I'm like, I just look through, no problem. So I don't care how it looks, man. I'm good.
Hey, look, Joe Rogan made it manly, man. So it's
yeah, no, that's a good point too.
Fucking manly, man.
So Steve, you talk a mile a minute. So we actually need to make up some questions on the spot for you. So I'm going to ask you two questions here. We're going to ask for some fight predictions. Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira?
Man, my team's going to hate me for this. And I'm probably going to be, I'm going to be completely wrong on this, especially when I say it out loud. But I'm going to say Charles Oliveira. I just think he's in a really good point in his career. Again, I'm going to be totally wrong on this. But I just think he's hungry right now. Dustin just made a lot of money. So I'm going to go with Oliveira.
So motivation is the key part. Go ahead.
Everyone is just saying Dustin. It literally, we put this on our story the other day, just do a poll. And it was ridiculous. It was like 90% Dustin Poirier.
Oh, no. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Dustin, Dustin kind of put it best, man. Like 25 minutes is a long time to fight that guy without him finding that one shot. So I do get it. But I don't know. I think Charles Oliveira, man, that guy is freaking annoying, man. Like he's good everywhere. I think everyone does question his heart, but I just think right now I think he's just in his groove. So I'm going to go with him, just not confidently.
Love it. Dude, that is awesome. Thanks for asking. Let me ask you one more, just off the top of my head, just two random fighters. I don't know. What about Petr Yan or Aljamain Sterling?
That's a tough one, man. That is a tough. Well, first of all, like as much as look, we're not a fan of Petr Yan in this team, obviously. I don't think that's far to say, but I think there's no question about that guy's ability. Like let's be clear, no one on this team is doubting what that guy is capable of. So as much as, we might joke around, we might shit on the guy, everyone here is absolutely respectful of what that guy's capable of. Especially in that last fight with Sandhagen. I think that was one of the best fights I've ever seen. But let's be clear. Like I just got done working out with Aljo. If Aljo does what he is actually just truly capable of doing, there's no one's touching him. I just truly in my heart, I just believe that just because, and I've heard Ray say that for years and I never really understood what he was saying, but being around Aljo and just seeing him and just seeing what he can do, dude, it is truly incredible. And if Aljo performs to, again, and I say this because we haven't even seen him do that in the octagon yet, in my opinion. Like I think the performance he's had, although some of them very impressive, I just really don't think they're to his full potential. And obviously, I think for this fight, he's got to be at that full potential. So he's going to have to be on 100%. And I'm telling you, I think this, again, for Bantamweight being one of the most stacked divisions, I think, in the world, if not right now, the most stacked division, I think you guys are about to see an amazing fight between two of the best guys of all time.
Yeah, and I can't wait, man, honestly. And, people are just kind of, there's a lot of people going, Jan's going to win, blah, blah, blah. And, there's a lot of people talking shit, but at the end of the day, Aljo can definitely win against Petr Yan, and he can be the bantamweight GOAT, man. I'm telling you now, like he can 100% do that. And he's got the ability to do that. And most people are just writing him off, which is nuts, man.
Look, that's the upside. And I know Ray talks about this a lot too. And I think it's amazing when everyone writes one guy off, because I think that makes it a lot easier for us. I just think again, everyone's gonna say the same thing. Like Aljo's gonna get beat up, blah blah blah. Perfect. Then we get to shut everyone up. So I like that.
Yeah. Do you feel like the pressure's more on Yan, in fact, because no one's expecting Aljo to win, and like they're like, yeah, like Yan's gonna win.
I think that's a look. I think that's a good. I think at their level, I think the pressure is almost meaningless. I think that's just my take. Again, I know it's a lot psychological, but I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to who's better, skill for skill, on who's better that night. I think the pressure might have this much of a difference, but yeah. I just think whoever shows up, whoever's ready to fight 25 minutes as hard as they can, is going to win that fight.
Absolutely awesome. A few more questions for you before we let you go here. Now, right now, the big trend in sports is celebrity YouTube boxing. Now, you, Steve Lee, is there someone that you want to call out, whether they're a YouTuber or a TikToker or an OnlyFans model? Is there someone that you want to meet in celebrity boxing?
Oh man, you know what sucks? I don't follow any of that. Like, I know it's actually ridiculous. I don't know anything about TikTok. I'm terrible with these YouTube. The only ones I know are the Paul brothers, which I recently learned was not one guy. I thought that was just Jake Paul, or I thought that was just, but there's two of them, I guess. It is. Yeah, those guys are big. I don't know. I think I could beat them up. Like, I don't know, just like respectfully. I don't think, that's the difference. And like, I see a lot of guys, especially like the guys who are in, like the guys who fight, they kind of say it the best. Like, man, these guys never really have to struggle like the way like real fighters have had to struggle. So when they have to face that adversity, I promise you, they will fold.
Yeah. What do you think of that, actually? Yeah, because that's interesting. Because I had this interview with Mike Lombardo a few months ago, and he mentioned like they've not had to, fight for peanuts, or they've not had to struggle. At the end of the day, they've always kind of had a bit of they've had money for a long portion of their life now.
Yeah.
So well, it's not really fair, and it's not really, it isn't fair, basically.
Yeah. And look, that's the thing. Life isn't fair. So I'm not mad at the guys. They're making their money. They're, whoever they're fighting, the B side is making their money. Like, it is what it is, but it's just not my thing personally. So I can't hate on it. But at the same time, if we're just talking about the facts, like, no, like these guys didn't have amateur fights making literally $0, like going through up the scene. Like, they didn't have to fight these dangerous fights for no reason other than they want to get some recognition. No, they already had the recognition. They did in fact, some would argue they did the hard part of getting the fame through some other aspect, and now they get to just do the fun part, which is the fighting. I think it is what it is. Just not everyone's going to be lucky like that, and I don't want to say lucky, but not everyone's going to be in the same position as them.
Yeah. And speaking of which, we all can't start with a little bit of a head start in prize fighting. It's an advantage because the prize fighting is all about making money. But what advice would you give to someone? You've been around some great trainers, you've been around some amazing fighters in your life. What advice would you be giving to someone who's looking to enter the sport of MMA?
You know what I think, and this is the same advice I kind of give everyone. If you're getting into the sport trying to look to make money, this probably isn't going to be for you. If that's your goal, at least I'm telling you, there's a way better ways to make money than fighting people for a living. So you just have to, the money, it'll come. Like, in terms of, if you just do the right things, like, yeah, you'll make your money. Like, I don't know if you'll make the kind of money you want to make, but you'll make your money. Like, don't worry. But you just have to genuinely, like, that's what I mean. Like, a guy like Khabib, like, I'm a huge fan of him, not even just for the fighting aspect, but just what he does outside of it. Because if you listen to everyone around them, they're like, one of my favorite things was listening to his coach, Javier Mendez, who you can tell they just have a fantastic relationship. He goes, someone asked him, has Khabib changed at all since he made all these millions and millions of dollars? You see him everywhere now. It's like millions of followers, everyone's sponsoring him. He's got his own, water brand, his own fight organization. He got this and that. They're like, has he changed at all? And they say, I love that he said this. It's just the only thing that's changed about him. He's just more generous. He just has the ability to give more. Now he has the money to actually give the things he wants to. So I really think that is that speaks to who he is. And, it's one of the things Ray says. It's, money doesn't change you. It just reveals who you are. Like, he was going to be that, if he got all that money and he became if he was a dickhead, he was a dickhead all along. Unfortunately, this was kind of my take on Conor McGregor, because I loved Conor McGregor when he was coming up, especially like his early run up to 2016. I just thought, I'm like, man, this guy mentally is just on point. Like, he knows what he wants and he's going after it. But then you hear him afterwards, it's just a different human being, in my opinion. So, like, again, once he got the money, he just became, again, it wasn't a different human being, unfortunately, in my mind. It was just the same guy, just so focused on one thing. The other side, the demons, just weren't able to come out until he had the money, and then they were.
Yeah, I agree with that because, you know, just before Conor McGregor, you know, MMA was big, but it was nowhere near as big. So it was almost like he propelled it to some other status.
Mm-hmm.
And like back then, you know, he was a fucking apex predator, man. Like he'll say what he was gonna do and he'll do it. But you know, you still saw little glimpses of him being just a complete dick as well.
Yeah.
We just kind of ignored it, man. We're like,
no, you're out because he was so charismatic and he's fun. Like, look, it's I loved it, but you're right. There was always a hint of this, like, wow, it's kind of a dick thing to say, but it was so charismatic and fun. I was always on board. But now, you know, again, it was during that Khabib there was the whole Khabib thing, you know, when he's bringing up his dad, he's bringing up, you know, this wife. I'm just like, dude, this is, look, man, like at the end of the day, in my mind, Khabib absolutely did the right thing by jumping over that cage and trying to fuck up his buddies. Because I'm like, dude, this is no longer like, and that tells Khabib's he's about the fighting, because this dude just fought for 20 minutes and was like, I'll go right now again with anyone here, and he meant it. So again, that guy really wanted to fight, and the other guy again was talking about business. So, you know, it is what it is.
Oh man, that's so good. So I'm gonna end it with this final question for you, Steve. We always like to ask this to everyone. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? It could be Steve leave the fire, Steve leave the civilian, whatever you prefer.
Man, this is look, this is, you gotta make lofty goals. So I'm 26 right now. In 5 years, I'll be 31. You know, I'm hoping at that point I'm retired. I helped Ray out as much as I could, and I can help out as many of the fighters here as I can at that point.
That's amazing, man. I like that.
Looking to make a great legacy. Now we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank our guest, Steve Lee, for coming on the Calf Kick Sports Podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton. You can find more of me, Tim Wheaton MMA. I'm joined as always by Ash, and you can find more ashmma.cks. Now, Steve, we're going to give you the last word here. Tell the folks where they can find more of you, what you have going on in the future, and give them everything, Steve.
You guys can find me on Instagram at TevenWee, same on Twitter. Follow our gym page, it's law_MMA. And yeah, just follow the guys on the team, man. I'm telling you, we got a lot of great guys on here, all on their own journeys, and it's truly something special to watch.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me.